All right, hey everybody, welcome back. We are here today for talking through Mark number 4 of a healthy church planter, which is Multiplier. Our guest today is Nathan Kimbrell. A little background about Nathan: he's from Alabama, went to college just outside of Raleigh at Southeastern Free Will Baptist College, and then we got connected with him years ago when he was a missionary. He and his wife were missionaries to Brazil. And that is how our relationship started. Peace Church began supporting them. And then, due to some health issues, they came back to the States. And while they're in the States, began attending Peace Church and then went through our residence, just like you guys are doing. They went through the residency, he and his wife. And then we sent them out a little over 3 years ago to Southern Florida to plant house churches. And so, as we talk about, planting churches, if you guys remember, one of the models we talked about were the simple church or the micro church or house church, however you want to define it or label it. So, intentionally planting these micro churches that will be reproducible. And so, man, their MO is they got to be all about multiplication for that to take place. And so that's why I invited Nathan to talk about the role of a church planter as being a multiplier. So that's a little bit about Nathan. I'm going to open us up in prayer and then I'm going to turn it over to him. He's got a hard cutoff time of about 50 minutes. So at 2:30, we need to cut off with him. I will hang on with you guys a little bit after that for about 5 or 10 minutes. But we'll cut Nathan off at 2:30. He has another church planning call, I think, at 2:30. So I'm gonna pray for us, and then we'll jump in with Nathan. God, thank you so much for your love and your grace and giving us the opportunity to connect with you and talk through church planting and the role of the church planter being a multiplier. Thank you for Nathan, just his faithfulness to you and how you're using him and Haley there in Broward County, Florida. Thank you for, man, just seeing the baptisms and people coming to know you. And it sounds like another potential baptism coming down the pipeline too. And so, God, we thank you for the way you're using them. I pray you would bless our time today as we talk through this Mark number 4. And it's in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. All right,
Amen.
Nathan, we are all yours.
All right. Thank you, Brad. So yeah, guys, I'm Nathan. I remember, let's see, Gabby, I remember you from last year, buddy. Good to see you. And good to see you guys, new faces here. And I'm excited about what God's doing here. So I did go through this residency with Brad and Peace. And so everything I am and am not is Brad's fault, okay? That's right. Just kidding, but no, thankful for Peace Church. So yeah, we've been here, me and my family, my two kids, about 3 years in South Florida. And I don't know much about all of your areas. Our area is very diverse, and so we're always trying to be thinking and creative with the way we talk with people about Christ and try to be very um, purposeful,
Yeah, hey,
engaging.
so about that,
Okay, go ahead.
but yeah, share a little bit like about the diversity, even maybe just in your apartment complex alone, like all the different nations that are there.
Okay, yeah. So our apartment complex, it's not the biggest around, but there's still, I don't know, 230 apartments, and we've got a lot of Hindu population, like a huge crowd of Indians. We have Latinos from all over Central and South America. And we have a lot of Caribbean islanders from, from Haiti, Dominican, all of those areas. And so this area is just saturated with people, mainly from the Western Hemisphere, but then a lot of Indians as well. And so with that comes all the religions, right? So we got Hinduism right here in our backyard. We've got Islam. We've got a lot of Jews in this area, a lot of Judaism. Um, and then we've just got a mixture of all kinds of other things. But we also have Jesus Christ showing through the area. And so, yeah, we're not the only ones. There's other churches, but definitely it's a huge need. And so it's always a challenge. It's fun, but it always gives us opportunities. So, but yeah, there's a little bit about where we are. Um, I'll give you just kind of a brief synopsis. Uh, I think this point last year when I did this call, we had Ozzy who was like this close to coming to Christ. Fast forward, came to Christ, was baptized. We've been pouring into him and his family, his girlfriend, who I still believe is very close. And then um, we've been involved in a gym ministry in a local just fitness gym. Partnered with a gym ministry that allows us the opportunity to share and with the gym owner. And so do Bible studies every week. Brad got to be a part of that. It's after the workout. We serve them food, healthy snacks, share Jesus Christ. That's created a lot of opportunities. It's been really cool. And so we had a guy um, that was baptized a few months back on the beach from the gym in front of, 50 or so people. So that was really cool. And then a guy I led to Christ from our mall, Haitian. Um, I've been pouring into him, and then he should, if all goes well, he should be baptized Monday night. So God's just been doing some cool things. And then most of it has been within the last year. Um, and we're coming up on, and at the end of March will be 3 years. And so it's not always our timetable as fast as we would like, but we're starting to see stuff come back now and roll together as God's beginning to multiply things. But I enjoyed this chapter. I think it's really important. There were a couple of things that he said I wanted to make note of. And by the way, let me just say, I am not like all answers, know all things multiplication, all things church planning. I am forever learning. So pieces poured into me, Brad's poured into me. Some of you guys know Doug Rogers. He's poured into me. I've got other people in ministry that poured into me, and currently, right now, I have a coach that's pouring into me that is doing the same thing. And so I'm always trying to learn like you guys. And so I hope today is helpful, though. But I just wanted to put that out there. So two things I made note that he says in the book or in this chapter. Um, he says what Paul did was where he went, the gospel was preached, disciples were made, leaders were developed and equipped. Paul didn't recruit from the outside, he worked with the people God had brought to him from the harvest. Brad, are you about to say something? Oh, hang
I
on.
got distracted. Aaron Pierce is popping in, a new father over here. So
Okay.
for the guys in Romania, this is Aaron Pierce. This is our pastor at Peace Church. He's an idiot, but he is our pastor. He'll be
Wait, oh,
leading.
Romanian guys. Ce faci, ești bine?
That's right. I know that one from Aaron.
Sunt un bărbat adevărat.
Nice to
Da,
see you guys. Nice
suntem
to see you
foarte
again,
bine.
Nathan.
Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, so Aaron's going to be leading our group discussion in a couple of months when we talk about really walking through like how to set up a discipleship pathway. So anyway, there's your first introduction. Some of you guys are remaining. That's your first introduction
That's
to
the
Aaron.
first time. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, anyway, all right.
All right. So thanks Aaron for the distraction. But no, but Paul, what he did was he shared the gospel, and then as people trusted Christ, he poured into them and developed them into leaders, right? And then he left. And the interesting thing is when you follow through Acts, the time frame at all of these places, um, some places he was there for a long time, and some places he wasn't. Some places he was there like 2 weeks, and then he's gone, right? And then some places like in Ephesus, I think it's Acts 19 and 19, he was there 2 years. All right. So the time frame seems a little dependent just on circumstances and what God was doing. Obviously, the Holy Spirit can speed up things or slow down things. And so, but he made disciples where he was and released them out, relinquished power. Okay. And so, I found that really important as we're talking about multiplication. At least historically, probably the last 100 years, we're seeing a shift, thankfully, but the Western mindset has been largely addition. I think sometimes out of maybe a misinterpretation or culturally maybe just thinking of things and kind of one way and what we're used to. There's just been a focus on addition, addition, instead of I'm creating you to multiply out as a disciple maker. And so we're seeing a shift, probably in the last 20 years, really, to that, thankfully. And so, but it's to see that shift happen. There are some things that are very important to understand scripturally, right? And then even as far as casting vision and things that we measure, which he talks about, and we'll get to. So one of the things he talks about, he uses the phrase, it's all alliterated, discovering, developing, and deploying leaders. Um, One of the things that we say, maybe you've heard of what people call the MAW method, model, assist, watch, and launch, which is very similar. And the whole principle, I think, comes from, well, we see it with Christ and what he did with the disciples, right? But we also see it with Paul. So, 2 Timothy 2:2. Does anybody remember what Paul says to Timothy? 2 Timothy 2:2. I'll tell you what, if somebody
Uh,
wants to read it, that'd be perfect.
I don't know the translation, but it's what you heard, give to others that will be able to give to others. And
Perfect. Yeah, that's
okay.
right. That's right, Gabby. So basically, and I'm going to send you guys a graph later to kind of show that in an email afterwards. But, Paul says to Timothy, hey, Timothy, just as Gabby said, you are going to commit to faithful or reliable people what I've committed to you. You're then going to commit to them that can do it to others. So if you count Paul not being the hero, pouring into Timothy, who he says do the same with other faithful, reliable people that will do the same to others. We're talking a measurement of like 4 generations, right? And so Paul doesn't just say, share Christ, stop there, right? Win people, done, right? He's like, let's really help people understand that they need to multiply this out. Like let's measure to that regard. And that requires a different kind of focus and mindset in following Jesus and in leading people because we understand it's not just about a my event or my thing or a point on a timeline, but about us measuring to the future generations, right? Is what we want. We want God's kingdom expanded beyond us to the extent that, hey, if no one ever knows who we are because we're so far removed from multiplication, then that's okay. And so, in doing that, though, we understand one of the things, and this is a verse that I come back to a lot because I know we got different people in here in different kind of levels of ministry, or I say levels, maybe roles would be a better word. Some considering what God would have them to do in ministry. Um, but one of the things I think is important to understand as a ministry leader is we're looking at what God said in Ephesians chapter 4. He's talking about the different giftedness. And as we're looking at leadership roles, Ephesians 4:11 and 12, he says he gave apostles, prophets, evangelists, shepherds, teachers, leadership roles. He says he gave these roles for what purpose? Verse 12, to equip the saints for the work of the ministry and for the building up of the body of Christ. Okay. So our main role as a follower of Christ, um, obviously to love him, to love others, but our main role as a leader of people, whether you're the apostolic or the pastor, shepherd type or teacher type, whatever it is, our role in helping them is equipping them to do the work. So I say all that to say um, preaching is important. Teaching is important. All these things matter. They have their purpose. Theology matters. We're inspiring people, right, to follow God. We're casting vision every time we preach. But if all we're doing is just giving them a little piece of the Bible for an hour or two here and there, we're not really equipping completely. Model, assist, watch, launch. Okay. And so for some of us, this takes a little backup thinking. I had to go through this a few years ago. Okay, what does this look like in my life personally, right? And so I like to speak. I enjoy speaking, but what will my time look like if I'm really going to multiply somebody else? And if I'm being honest, in learning, a lot of times Western mindset is just like monologuing to a classroom, right? But most of us learn by hands-on experience and doing. And Jesus knew that because the rabbinical method was you follow your teacher, you watch him do it, and then you get to do it, with him, and then you do it by yourself, and then he launches you to do it alone, right? That was kind of the rabbinical method. Well, similarly, that's the way we want to be doing with the people we're investing in. And so, um, from the start requires understanding that biblical idea of I need to be equipping people. So what does that look like? If I'm equipping somebody to multiply, if I'm equipping this person I led to Jesus to share their faith, what does that look like? What does it look like where they're at their job? What would it look like in school? What would it look like in their neighborhood? Okay. Maybe they need help praying. What would that look like? You model it first, and then you start helping them. And so, uh, just to give an idea, um, so everything we want to do, he even makes. There's a statement he made. I think I wrote it down somewhere in here where he talks about keeping everything simple, simple structures. Simple things can be reproduced easily, right? The more complex our structure, like an elephant, the longer it takes to reproduce, the longer a gestation period, right? Simple like a little bunny rabbit in our processes and structures, okay? Because you can be big and have a simple structure, all right? But simple like a bunny rabbit, faster to reproduce in theory, right? So we want to be simple and biblical always. But for me, let me to give you an example. One of the things that I try to model is prayer walking. I'm still growing in it, but praying with people. So I've gone to the mall many times and just look for people to engage in conversation and pray with over needs. Lost people. And as I get talking with them, what's something we can pray for? And I start praying with them. But two things, usually I'm taking somebody with me, preferably a believer that's not shared used to sharing their faith, or a believer that is trying to just learn how to engage people. I usually take somebody with me. And so I'm modeling to them what it looks like to pray with the lost, to share my story, to share Jesus Christ. And they're seeing it. And I'll tell them, hey, you pray, I'll talk. If you want to interject, that's fine, but don't feel pressure. You pray, I'll talk. And then I'm talking to people. And then if they get comfortable later, hey, engage. I'm right here helping you, right? I'll assist you. And I'm praying too. And then the hope is that we do it enough that eventually they can do this or take somebody with them, right? And so you're modeling to them, but here's the crazy thing, Jesus has got this thing kind of rigged, right? As we're modeling what it looks like to share the gospel with lost people, as we're sharing, we're also modeling to them future obedience. If I give my life to Christ, I'm going to be doing what this person's doing, right? So for instance, Sino, the Haitian guy who just came to Christ, he now knows in his mind, I'm going to be doing some of what Nathan was doing to share my faith out in the open because that's how I came to Christ, right? So in a lot of ways, the way we win people is going to be that first onset programming of how they're going to be doing it as well in a similar way. Sino has seen like four people come with me to share Jesus to him and to other people in the mall at different times, a different person. So he already knows how important that is. And so we've been talking about sharing your faith, sharing your faith. So now that he's come to Christ, like we're like, I'm talking to him, share your faith, share your story, share Jesus, share the Bible, share what you know. I can backfill and help with theology along the way, but share what you know of Jesus right now. Okay. And any question, I'll help, but start sharing. And so modeling simple things. Now, that's just, I'm not saying perfect example. I'm just telling you what I do, some of what I do, but trying to model something that is simple like that. But we have to have that vision of it going beyond ourselves. And then me praying, I pray with him for the lost people in his life. And now I'm like, now you pray and you try to go share with them. Come back and tell me how it went. Okay. So counting, if I were a Paul and he's a Timothy, we're looking, hey, where are those reliable people in your life that you can pour into, right? And you may not know they're reliable until you share Jesus with them. Okay. Because one of the coolest pictures, and we miss this, we do forget this. We definitely need to co-labor. Your next chapter is about co-laboring. We need it in God's kingdom. But the other cool thing is, um, Jesus says, go out into the harvest. So, harvest is a picture of fruit that's already ready. Okay. So, if something is ready for harvest, most of the work has been done. You just go out and pick it. And so, the idea, Jesus, even in saying the word harvest, is casting vision that, hey, I've got what you need out there in the world. Like it's just ready, go pick it. Right? I've got people prepared, ready to receive me. I've got people prepared that will even benefit you, right? So we share Jesus and a person comes to Christ, right? And they benefit, but we benefit. If you're a farmer and you're planting, you get to benefit from the harvest, right? And so Jesus is casting vision, even in just using that phrase harvest. It's prophetic, it's prophetic promise of to what's out there available if we share Jesus. All right. And so as we're talking and thinking on these things, um, being ready to equip and model this. But now let me ask some questions as we're thinking of multiplying and not just addition. What Let me ask this. Does your current vision for you or your ministry, your current vision and scorecard, so your measurement of success, right? Do they reflect multiplication as being what you value, right? So think on that. Um, I'll give you an example of some of the things for me in a minute, but do they reflect multiplication? Because let me give you an instance of maybe a reflection of just an addition. Addition normally counts just first generation stats, like how many people got saved this year, how many people came to my event, attendance, right? Attendance always, right? Some of these things, not wrong, nothing wrong. Maybe you should count them to a large degree, so not wrong at all. Don't misunderstand. But if we're aiming for beyond, a better question might be, you know, how many in attendance are sharing their faith, right? That I know have shared their faith this week. How many in attendance are open to being trained to share their faith? How many in attendance of my church or event, how many of those have led someone to Christ this year? How many of those they've led to Christ have shared their faith? You can measure out, right? Um, and so there are things that we can control and there are things we can't control, but we want to have a clear vision what God's called us to personally. He's calling the people we're leading our church, our ministry to. We want a clear vision and we want clear measurements that reflect our vision. So let me give you
So
let me give you
yeah,
a little
I'm about to
example.
say, because
Okay.
this kind of thought process may be new for a lot of
Okay.
people on this call. It
Sure.
just, hey, I understand the importance of making disciples, but like you was talking about, like the measurables and the metrics that you use. How many of you guys have ever thought through how to measure success of multiplying before? Just by show of hands, if you have. So like one,
And
yeah,
up until two,
right.
3 years ago, I hadn't thought much about it either.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think you were about to do it anyway. So I
Yeah.
know one of the things that Nathan you put out is you put like your controllable stats and your
Yeah.
uncontrollable. So yeah, just kind of walk them through how you chose maybe those controllable stats and
Yeah.
then what you aim for in doing
Sure.
that.
Sure. Yeah. So in thinking about what we believe God has called us here, our vision, we try to put it in simplest form in a sentence, small as possible. And and then we try to value or measure things throughout our week that we believe align to that vision. Okay. And so the vision or our heart for us here, we're praying or asking God for a simple movement of replicating disciples and house churches among the least reach in Broward County and beyond. Okay. So that's the vision. We're looking for a movement of replicating disciples and house churches in our area and beyond. Specifically, we're praying for over 100,000 disciples in a decade, which would be beyond us, right? So we go, okay, so what would that look like? What would it take to get that to happen? So a great question to ask. Okay, this is my vision for my town or your town, wherever you're from, for Romania, for Wilson, wherever you live, whatever God's vision has put there on your heart that is beyond you and your town. Okay, the follow-up question is, what would it take for that to happen? Okay, obviously God, we're depending on Him all the time. So prayer, and nothing's going to happen apart from prayer. So you can even measure. So in measurables, I try to measure out even things of prayer. How many times, we're to pray without ceasing always, sure, all throughout the day. But do you have deliberate time of praying in the day for the lost in your area? Are you meeting with people praying for the lost? Do you have a team? In the last few months, and again, I'm not perfect, I'm still learning on it, but I put together a prayer team and I've tried to, Brad knows, Brad's a part of it, but I try to get these guys praying together. How much time could you pray for the work here, during a week? And all together, and I've asked them to grow it as much as they could, but an average of like 7 hours per week is being prayed through here to here from an outside group, a team. I will say this, since starting that, I've seen God move in greater ways than I ever did before. So prayer matters. It's important. I, I'm not going to say that X equals, like a math equation, but God tells us to. But you can measure out if you want to see multiplication happen, I think prayer has to be a big part. So you can measure out what I call controllables, and I use that word because there are things that I can do to obey God in my life, and those are the only things I can worry about. If I'm so focused on uncontrollables, you know, that being, I really can't help how many people come to Christ. I'm going to win 1 million this year or whatever, but 200, 300, whatever. I really can't completely help that. I really can't completely help my Timothys, those I pour into, how much they share their faith. I mean, I can model it, I can help them, but I can't completely even help all of their growth. Um, I can't completely help all the money or whatever that funds that come in for our ministry. Now I can do my part to help on that, but even in your ministries and those things. So those would be more uncontrollable things that only God can do. I'm I track them, I pray for them, up to God. But what can I control? I can obey, right? And so prayer, different things. Then I set goals and I try to grow in it. But you know, prayer time monthly. Um, I measure as well for me how often I pray with unbelieving. Like I try to shoot for praying with people in the like lost people, like having a conversation. And I try to track it. How am I doing on an average throughout a month and that kind of thing. How many Jesus conversations or me sharing my story I have with people. I keep a record of it. And so that way I can look back and see, if I'm trying to get to 100,000, doing what part I can, um, there's got to be me doing some things, obeying, right? Gospel shares, strictly a gospel conversation, share with somebody, like it got to that point. How many times, right? Prayer walks, how many times I've prayed in my community with people or walking around it. All these different things. I've got several more, but one of them is Bible studies I've done with people. Um, and then, how many baptisms? That's a little bit uncontrollable, but how many baptisms this year to now? And then, how many I've got on there, how many times, and I occasionally will ask, how many times, have you shared this week Jesus with somebody? Well, I'm trying to measure out multiplication, right? So, trying to measure out beyond me. So, controllables, and then and then I even have collaborations, right? Because I've got to be able to partner with people in the kingdom sharing Christ to go beyond me. So always looking for more of those that make sense. And so vision, metrics, what's important for me, what's important for the ones I'm leading, um, trying to get to multiplication. And I like controllables because I won't get burned out. People get burned out when they're focused on things that are beyond them and they can't control. I can't control necessarily how many people come to Christ. I can't control how much I can't. There's a million things about ministry that people get burned out upon that's not in their control. But what I can control is being a son or daughter, a follower of Jesus that is obeyed and trying to measure out to that goal and that dream and asking God's help on it every day. So we'll stop there for a little bit. Anything to add or question in that, Brad?
No, I was just going to tell them. So when we do our monthly check-in call or meeting, that'll be something that I want you to walk through is how can you create your own personal goals that lead to multiplication? So what are those controllables that you could create for yourself? So maybe something for you is, hey, I want to have one conversation with an unbeliever per week, or I want to share my story with one person per week. Whatever it is that you come up with for you. So just go ahead and start thinking about that. What are some, controllables that you can set for yourself? Maybe it's I'm going to prayer walk in my community once a week or twice a month or whatever it is. So I'm going to let you create that so that you can create your own target. So just be thinking through that for when we do our monthly check-in in our smaller groups.
And Brad, I love that. That's one of the things my coach Ben does with me. I set goals and he's like, "All right, well, if it's okay, I'm going to try to help hold you accountable to your goals." Perfect, right? Do I always hit them? No. But it's God, this is what I believe you're calling me to do. This is how I think you want me to get there, but I just got to obey, right?
Yeah.
And so
So
I love
we have about 15 minutes left with Nathan. So I do want to open up for anyone on this call. Do you have a question for Nathan based on maybe something he shared or maybe as you read, thinking through multiplication, any questions you have for him?
Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, Randa, I didn't see you on there. In my queue of
Yeah.
people, you were not on it.
Um, I guess my question is on your prayer walks, what kind of specifics do you pray? I mean, I've been in prayer walks in my neighborhood, and basically for mine is for God to open my eyes to see as He sees, to bring the right people around for me not to, you know, move too fast and too slow, to go into His way to and come into contact with people.
Yeah,
And, that's kind of where I'm got, but I just didn't know if you have something to add to that you've picked up over
sure.
time.
Yeah, so I can send you a tool that helps me in my kind of thought process as I prayer walk. Um, People often mean different things using the same phrase, prayer walk. And if you're praying and walking, I'm not going to argue with a guy that, maybe he means something different than I do. Uh, but when I say prayer walk, and I've got two different meanings going on, I have either a prayer walk of non-engagement, meaning I'm just praying over the area strictly that I'm not going to talk to somebody unless it just like happens. And then I have prayer walks where like I'm purposely going through trying to have an opportunity to pray with somebody over a need and then go to Christ in the conversation. So a prayer walk of non-engagement, which is like I think of like an aerial attack, and a prayer walk of engagement. And so I do different ones. If I'm talking non-engagement, one of the things I'm praying for, and it's better to do it in a group if you can do it together because you can kind of come back together and go, hey, did we notice anything? Did any door, house, person stand out to us on the street? Because we're praying for the gospel to come into an area. So we're praying for a friend of mine shared a tool, and I can send it to you guys. 5 H's. We're praying for open heavens. We're praying. I think is it Isaiah? One of the things, praying for God to bless and to show Himself and be kind and merciful. And some people are like, well, we shouldn't pray that. Well, God sends rain on the just and the unjust. God took care of us even when we didn't follow Him. And so it's okay to pray that people see the goodness of God and their eyes are opened. Okay. So, God, keep our neighborhood safe. Keep it from violence. Protect the kids that are in this home. I don't want anything bad to happen to those kids. Protect, help this person with their job. Literally praying for needs. And if anything, it helps us to go, okay, they're people that, God, you care about. So, real fast, open heavens, open hearts, praying for open hearts of individuals, open soil. God, lead me to those. Open hands, open highways, meaning open hands, meaning that somebody will accept Jesus Christ and they'll actually take it with their hands and share because we're praying for multiplication, right? So beyond just the person praying for um, open homes, meaning that the whole home would come to Christ. Open highways, meaning that it would go out. So we're praying for the future. We pray not just for an individual, we're praying for that individual's friends and family and even their multiplication. And Jesus did that for us. I pray not just for these here in John 17, but for all those who will believe according to their words. Well, that is like Jesus praying for all believers throughout history. So Jesus prayed looking to the future for multiplication, right? So praying for those things uh, and is a good tool. I can send that, Randa, later to help. And I didn't come up with it, but it is something that helps me. But
Oh, yeah, I would definitely love it. And I kind of used both of those things you just said. It's like I'll just start out to pray around the neighborhood. And then
hmm
sometimes I'll get in touch and speak to somebody. Sometimes I don't,
yeah,
but I'm just praying when I initially go around, I'm just to pray. In fact, it's like I was listening to a message on the seeds and the soil. And I was like, I'm gonna listen to it before we get together. I like to walk, and I came in contact with somebody I had met before, and um, I mean, and I mean, I don't. One thing is, I just don't understand and do understand is like people say, I just don't talk about Jesus when I meet people, but who I am is because of Jesus.
yeah.
So I understand like not throwing it at them, you know what I'm saying? But I just started talking to him, and of course, my favorite thing to talk about is Jesus. So I started talking about
Yeah.
Jesus. And his family originally is from Egypt. I don't know. He told me what it was exactly. Something similar to Catholic, but he knows the Bible. We sat there and talked for a while, and
Yeah.
but exactly what all, and we're having the D group at our house. I was like, you can come on. I was like, yeah, it doesn't matter, like, because he's going to a church in Raleigh that goes to what he believes. So I'll have to look into. I just hadn't had that time yet. And I'm like, it's okay. It's like, so far we haven't even had anybody from our church show up, so you're more than welcome. I was like, it's meant for whoever wants to come.
Yeah,
It
awesome.
doesn't like you have to be going to a certain church. And I just, said we felt like the Lord had led us to this place, because he
Yeah,
asked how long I've been here and stuff. But um, so I kind of do that, but I mean, but those guideline type things are because I'm like a little bit of ADHD in a way. Like I see
yeah,
things all over the place. So usually I have in my prayer book, I'll pray about the certain things that are on my heart I need to update. But so just trying to figure out how to do things,
yeah.
the best
And
way.
yeah, and you can do it in your neighborhood. You can do it in the mall. You can do it, and you kind of can test openness of an area or soils by the gospel as you start talking to people. Are they open to, you know, and so for me, it's like, I'm walking through this area. I'm just praying for people. I'm a follower of Jesus. He tells us to love our neighbor. I just want to pray for our neighbor. Hey, can I pray for you about anything? And no or yes, okay. So you kind of start, but if they're like, yeah, actually, well, all right, they got a need, stop right there, pray for them. And then, the reason after you pray, the reason I do this, there was a time in my life when, this was going on, but Jesus met me there. Jesus changed me. Do you have a story like that? Boom. And now you're talking to somebody about Jesus and that fast. And you can kind of gauge receptivity of soil by the amount of times you've been sharing Jesus in an area, right? And
Yeah.
so you'd be surprised how many places in your mind fear has just told you it's dark and hard, but then you start sharing, you're like, oh, it's actually not that hard of soil here. Like there's more people who are open to talking spiritually than I realized. And so the mall, the hospital, you know, a public place where people were gathering, anywhere like that, a community center, any place where you can stop and engage people, any place reflective, a beach, a pool, a lake, Wilson Lake,
Well,
could be, I mean, many
when I
things.
was talking about, like Nathan said, the mall, and I mean, if you guys have ever been to, obviously in Wilson we don't have a mall anymore, but if you're ever in the mall somewhere around, all of those people, those kiosks, they're always stopping you, wanting to talk to you, and
Hey,
like
those
I know.
kiosks.
Yeah, like I do everything I can to avoid them. And when I was highlighting Nathan a while back, I said, he goes to the mall and said, hey, these guys are trying to engage me, so hey, why not engage them with the gospel? They want to talk about their product, so hey, okay, instead of avoiding them, man, let's jump right
Yeah.
in and have a talk with those guys at the kiosk.
Hey, right or wrong, you could offer a trade. Like, look, I know you're working. I don't want to waste too much of your time either, but if you're going to sell to me, let me talk to you about something too. Boom. And, all right. So now
Oh,
I'll share something with you while you share with me. And, they're working, but still, like if they're going to take 5 minutes of yours, take a couple minutes to share Jesus. But yeah, now it's always easier with another person. I say 100%
Hey,
Jesus
is
in my
is, is
by the
D Will
Spirit.
okay? All I'm seeing is the ceiling. Did D Will fall and hurt himself?
D Will.
No, there he is.
There he is.
I thought he got hurt or something.
mhm.
So there's a few kind of questions for you guys to reflect on, and I may even send some more afterwards, but just so you guys are thinking, one question, if you launched a daughter ministry, daughter church, or whatever tomorrow, what would be the biggest hindrance currently in that happening and going to multiplication, right? What would that be right now? Think on that, because that may be God telling you, all right, there's some stuff we got to tweak in our philosophy, in our ministry, and what I'm doing. Um, okay. And then in your circles right now, is there one, at least one emerging leader? And I use the word leader as I try to use what Paul used, a faithful or reliable person. Because giftedness matters, but we all know we put too much emphasis on giftedness. Who was faithfully obeying Christ and they're open to knowing more and they're available to me spending time with them, right? Um, Open, faithful, and available for my time and their time, right? S- And you may not even know how reliable, faithful somebody is until you start investing in them. I mean, if they're never obeying and they're never doing it, and they're not, they're not one of these, Timothy people. But if they are, man, it doesn't matter really how talented they are. God can use them, right? And we may be surprised. So, is there one or two? Start trying to invest in them. God, could it pray over it? Could it be this person, right? Yeah. And then in your life this week, if prayer is the fuel for all of this, what do I need to change or add in my own life, right? Daily habits. And then do I need to model that even to somebody? Maybe you already got some great things going. Are you modeling it? Invite somebody into that prayer life with you. Model it with them. Hey, has anyone ever like showed you how to really pray for that faithful person? Start committing to prayer with them. Um, and then one of the things, kind of to conclude this, what is one action related to launching a leader or maybe simplifying the system you have, or maybe just modeling multiplication? What is one action that you yourself can commit to for the next 30 days, right? The next 30 days, as I'm thinking about, we're trying to get to multiplication, right? And you may need to even back up. What vision is God's calling me to rethink my vision? And I will say your vision needs to be bigger than you. If you can explain it by your own hard work and your church's hard work, then it's not a God vision. It needs to be bigger than yourself. That really would only make sense if God intervenes. So, what is God calling you to that is bigger than yourself and your own church, a vision? All right. What metrics, what scorecard now needs to be in place to help us obey and align to that with me modeling that? Okay. And then this week, like this month, what are some things we need to change to align toward multiplication? And, if I'm being really honest, I know I'm not being unkind because a lot of people are just doing what they know and always see. Really, we do what we know until we realize that we need to do differently, correct? And but by and large, in Western churches in America, most believers are not sharing their faith. Okay. So are you sharing your faith? Are you modeling that? And if you are doing that, now help model it to the ones in your church and that you're leading. Invite some people in and start showing them how to do that. Okay. But in America, most believers aren't most pastors in America don't have a rhythm of doing that outside of preaching. But that's part of being a disciple is doing that. Number two, we got to be equipping people to do that. Right. So how do I now shape my schedule? And it may be creative and it may be costly. I'll be honest, I'm gonna tell you one thing I had to do this week, and I don't like doing this, but I hate staying up late, and I like going to bed early and getting up early. And I don't like doing anything after like 9 o'clock. My brain starts shutting off. But I was challenged with one of my coaches was like, if your person you're pouring into only has a late time available, but they're trying to give it to you, you're probably going to have to accommodate that at least periodically. I'm like, oh gosh. Well, I said all that to say, Sino, who got saved at the mall, he's in school all the way till 2, goes home, showers, catches a bus to work. He's at work till late in the evening every day, except for the weekend, and he works all weekend. So if I'm poor any time in a Sino, it's going to be before school or after work most of the time. So we got together at Sonic 2 nights ago, late at night, after work, talking. Okay. So, but I had to go, all right. what time is available and shift my schedule and change some things and, prep my wife and my family and get them ready. And I had to do some things beforehand so I could go out. I had to shape some things in my schedule, my life, and I had to like gear myself up like, all right, God, it's got to cost me something. And discipleship always costs. It's always relational and it always costs. This modeling, assist, watch, launch that Christ did, this that he's talking about and multiplying, it's always going to be relational. It's rarely at a huge macro level speaking into, an audience, and then multiplication happens that way. I mean, it can, but it's very rare. Most of the time, it's the way Jesus did it and pouring into a few people over a space of time. So, Brad, anything? I got a couple minutes, and
Yeah,
then
no, man, that's good stuff. And so as we think about the five marks book and these different topics, the way I look at it is these are more personal. So this is for you, just you personally. What can you do to be like last month was missionary? What can you do to be a missionary in your city? What can you do personally to focus on being a multiplier? And then for like guys like Gabby, Darius, and Daniel, um, you'll be thinking more of, okay, so this is me personally, but for us, like you guys are preparing to launch a church. How can we give our entire church that mindset? And so as you think about that, we will be hearing actually from Nathan's brother, Stephen, is going to be leading us through developing leaders within the local church. And so as you think about that, he's going to really harp on more of, okay, what does that look like to do that within the church too? So we'll talk more about this topic coming up here in a couple of months. So
yeah,
this is just kind of, just whetting the appetite a little bit.
awesome. And I mean, and you personally, you guys know it, but you guys, I mean, I say this to myself all the time. It's hard for us to receive or get from the people we're training what we're not doing ourselves. It's almost impossible. So if like I want my people to win people to Jesus and then them pour into other people and then them pour into other people, well, are we doing it? And if we are they seeing us doing it, like learning from us doing it? Have we poured into some people that are doing it and now we're equipping them to do it to other people, right? And so um, I think that's one, it's right. It's not hypocritical, but two, it's setting the example. A lot of times we want something out here that we're not doing right here. God, do it first in me and help me, and then work through me and help me to release this and let other people do it as well. Paul spent 2 years sending out people throughout all of Ephesus. It says until the whole all of Asia heard the word of the Lord. 4 to 7 million, depending on whom, what you read, in 2 years, because they're multiplying. They're taking it and they're sending it, and then they're taking it and sending it, right? So, guys,
Awesome,
you've been
Nathan.
great.
Yeah,
Anything
man.
else for
Thank
me?
you.
I'm gonna send Brad. I
Yep.
can maybe in the email link I can send a
Hmm.
few helpful tools and maybe a
Perfect.
few more questions to just think on. Um, but I hope it was helpful.
Yeah,
So,
man, for sure. Nathan, thank you. I know he's got another
thank
call
you
that
guys.
started now, so we'll
I know
hang
now
up
I
with
get
Nathan.
coached a little bit.
That's right. Be nice.
All right. Thank you guys.